Excellent, excellent. Welcome, welcome. Super excited to have everybody here. All right. I'm Dr. Emily. Welcome. You are here at the Senior Developer Meet and Greet tonight. I see so many familiar faces. Some are new as well. Welcome, welcome. Whether you're wherever you are in tech, you are absolutely welcome here. Because some of you are new faces, I'll just give you a quick brief introduction on me, and don't worry, we're going to dive right into the senior devs that are coming up next. So, I am Dr. Emily. I was a professor of computer science where I was actually the program director for the computer science curriculum. I was responsible for the programming pathway that took students from not even computer science majors to, six-figure software developer level and getting that hands-on experience working on software engineering and client projects. And so I did that at two different universities. And then I left to start my own coding school because I thought that there was more that we could do outside of the traditional academic structure. And so here we are tonight. In part of that is that the best people to learn from, if you're into tech and you want a job in tech and you want to be on the latest edge of, building software and technology, you want to learn from people who are doing it, right? Like in their day job every single day. In fact, in business, I've come full circle. I'm now a business owner, so I have some of that as well. But in business, we know that you become who you hang out with. So if you want to become that incredible software developer who's invited to apply for jobs versus, having to just submit your resume blindly hundreds of places, the fastest way to do that is to hang out with people who already are where you want to be. And so that's the purpose of tonight, is to give you that opportunity to get in the room with people on the forefront of technology. And so I'm super excited because we have two senior devs coming tonight. Coach Kyle will be coming in about a half an hour. He's putting his kids to bed. But we have Coach Austen here right now, who I'm just super excited. We've worked with Austen before, and I think he has so much to share with you guys tonight. So, jot down your questions. But I'll let Austen introduce himself because I don't want to steal his thunder. But yeah, like so grateful to have you here, Austen. Take it away.
Hey, Emily, thanks for having me. So I'm Austen McDonald. I have been an engineer for a long time. Let's see, I've done lots of different things. I got a PhD in computer science from Stanford University, pushing 20 years ago, I guess. And then since then, I worked in a number of different kinds of organizations. I've worked in small startups. I've worked in sort of like, I would say, what do you call them? Like agency style work, right? Where we build things for clients. And then I spent almost 10 years at Meta. I was started as an iOS engineer and then was a manager, managed a bunch of different teams there. I helped to bring about a lot of changes inside the iOS app, especially to news feeds, so things like reactions, and then we did a bunch of experimental stuff. And I even worked in my last few years there on some internal tools, including their recruiting tools. And I got really excited about recruiting. I was the hiring committee chair for all their iOS and Android engineering hires for the last 5 or 6 years while I was there. So I reviewed every single iOS and Android interview packet that came through. That's like thousands of packets, and we would pick the people for the committee and make the hiring and leveling decisions. We would train the interviewers, and I specifically trained a lot of the behavioral interviewers. And behavioral interview is one of these kind of like, tell me about a time you had an ambiguous project, tell me about a time you had a conflict, that kind of interview. And so since I left, or like semi-retired a few years ago, directly from Meta, I've been coaching people on behavioral interviews, and then I've also been coding a bunch. So my wife has a small business, and I've been building web and mobile applications for her, which is a lot of fun. Doing a lot of like agentic coding the last couple of years, and really excited to be here. I think what motivates me is just meeting new people, helping them learn, helping them grow, whatever. So that's really what excites me and why I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Austin. Welcome. So if you have questions on on how to become a software engineer, how to apply for jobs, how to nail that job, like we couldn't be in better company. And Austin has so much experience having been instrumental in building Meta's mobile interface and hiring their engineering team. Yeah, if you've got questions about tech and AI, think them up, pop in the chat. We'll definitely get time to ask them tonight. So Austin, I'm curious. We have a lot of aspiring software developers in the room tonight. And I was curious, if you had one piece of advice, I know you probably have like so much advice, but if you had to distill it to like maybe one or two things. What would you recommend for someone who's coming on the job market like right now, either for internships or for applying for jobs? What would you recommend their highest priority like each day would be?
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing is to make personal connections with other people that are working so you can get a referral. I mean, I think that is the number one thing to do. We can talk about resume, we can talk about the sort of top of the sales funnel when we're talking about helping you get a job. That's super important. You know, LinkedIn profile, resume, definitely important. But the more time you put into building relationships with people who work in the industry, the more times you can find that situation where somebody has a job, there's somebody that you know who can refer you. That's going to be the most valuable use of your time. I would say outside of the pure recruiting thing, I would say master agentic coding. I know you probably already know that. That's not like some deep insight that I'm providing you, but if you are able to be the master, there is a delta right now available for engineers who are really good at orchestrating multiple agents at once in order to accomplish production ready tasks. If you can up level your understanding of what makes a great code base great, which the good news about that is that that's all the things that have we've been talking about in software engineering for 20, 25 years about what is a great code base, one with wonderful tests, like one that's well documented, one that has a great CI/CD pipeline, all those things. So if you can learn those best practices for software engineering, those could have been like nice to haves on small projects in the past. Now they are absolute musts in order to take advantage of the speed that LLMs give you when you start to build things with LLMs. So to me, that's the second thing. If you can come in and be that person who, yeah, we already understand a native like AI flow for identifying business opportunities and translating those into code and into things that are in production, then that is an asset for you. Possibly because you may have some time to acquire that, that may be an advantage over some of their existing software engineers who are busy just trying to deliver on value. Those are the two things I would bring up.
I love it. Thank you so much, Austin. So just to kind of pull that all together, we've known for a long time, anyone in the industry look like helping others get their first foot in the door in software engineering positions knows that networking and connections are literally the fastest path, right? And so I love that you're highlighting that, Austin, as well. I know sometimes as technologists, we like to dive into the tech and maybe ignore the human side of things. But as I've learned as a business owner, money comes through other people and the value that you bring to them. And so if you want money, you have to add value and the people have to know about it, right? So at some level, there's got to be a connection that happens. And so, and just to give you like a tale of two students, because I've helped dozens of students get placed. And so I had one student who is one of the best students I'd ever worked with. He applied to 600 jobs, had 72 interviews. This took like 6 months. He had 24 like second interviews and he got one offer. That was over 6 months and it like ate him from the inside out. He was so stressed. I was like, dude, chill. Like that's not like I didn't recommend that path, but he insisted. Okay, right? And then I had another student who applied to one job, had one interview, had an offer in 2 weeks. Guess what she had? A connection. Someone who worked at that company wanted her to work there too. Okay, so I'm just saying, like, in terms of your time investment, like making those connections, like that's where it happens. Because if you think about it, everybody is pressing a button to submit their resumes. So, like, it's super easy to apply. How do you make sure that your resume actually gets considered and looked at by a human? Connections, right? Because it's
Yeah,
really hard to
totally.
hire people. And it's hard to fire them. And it's a big risk. You're like looking at a resume for 30 seconds, then deciding whether or not to interview them because there's just so many of them, right? And so then, well, if someone can vouch for someone in your stack, guess what? They're going to get considered because that other person
Yeah.
is going to vouch for them. So I don't know, Austin, if you have anything else to add in there. I know you're
No, I
smiling.
mean there's so much noise, right? So much noise, and
Yeah.
I think that I did recently publish an article with
Ooh.
the system design newsletter guy Neo Kim, where I cover a bunch of resume tips. I know I was talking about like referrals, but because that's obviously super important. But if you want to I'll grab and send the link in a few minutes.
Thank
But
you.
if you do want
Yeah,
to
you can definitely
improve
check.
your kind of top of funnel, your LinkedIn experience, how you structure your resume, you can take a look at this article. It's free, so I'll find it in a
Perfect.
few minutes.
Thank you. I love it. But yeah, I just want to hammer that home because I see so much resistance in students like from shyness, from not having confidence to avoiding, it's always difficult to put yourself out there, right? I mean, it's hard to people can say no, right? It doesn't always go smoothly,
Sure.
but but minute for minute, once you have the base level of skills, right? You do have to know what you're doing, right? Like you have to have some base level of skills, but once you have that, literally the difference maker is do you know someone that knows someone? Right.
Yeah,
It
totally.
is what it is. Awesome. I love it. Thank you, Austin. That's great resume advice. We'll get that link. So that's in the chat for anyone that's watching. And then the other thing you talked about was agentic coding. And so I was just
Sure.
curious, well, and best practices in software engineering, right?
Right.
And that's the cool thing about the best practice of software engineering is that it's been, like you said, it's been around forever. But now, where everyone can have like a team of agents working for them, it's become the critical skill. Whereas we used to focus on like variables and functions and loops and when do you use them? Okay, AI can handle most of that now, right? But it's like, are you following best practices? Are you setting something up that's going to be maintainable or like a beast, right? And so I'm curious, do you have any recommendations on like if someone wanted to go one step further and look for those best practices? Because AI may or may not be the best place to go digging for those.
Yeah, it's probably pretty good. I think that's a good place to start. So
Yeah,
there's a ton. I mean, the LLMs have been trained on the internet, and there's a tons of articles on the internet about how to build a great code base. So I would first start there and just ask it like,
perfect.
what are the best practices for software engineering for maintaining a great code base? But it's going to tell you things like um, uh, continuous integration, continuous deployment. It's going to talk to you about testability. It's going to talk to you a lot about code quality, right? And I think that is one area that might be kind of a red herring at this point. I think there's a lot of advice. You can go read people like Kent Beck, who have been writing a lot about software quality for a really long time, and they would write whole books on like what is clean code or like what is easy to read code. And the idea is that it's being read by a human. That's not so much the case anymore. There you go. That's not his book, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
the concepts come from the same kind of school of thought, and I think a lot of that advice may not be applicable anymore, given that like LLMs are the ones who are reading most of the code these days. But a lot of the organizational, a lot of the structure around that you build around the code base, a lot of those best practices are still
yep.
still still in place.
Yep, I love that. And I think one of the hardest things to do is you can ask AI, and that's a great first start. What I found for like code quality type learning, I can read a book all day long. Like, for instance, there's this, I don't know if it's as popular anymore, but when I was starting out, design patterns was the thing. And I would read
Yeah,
this book and I would go through it and I'd be like, what the heck are they talking about? Like, I had no clue because I was a student. Like, I hadn't built any production software systems yet. So I
yeah.
think the key would be to balance the AI with also the hands-on practicality of like throw yourself into a project and take that concept and try and make the project better in some way or have a conversation with AI about how to
Yeah, go
make it
build
better.
something. I mean, if you want to
Right,
get good at
exactly.
something, go do it,
Yeah,
right? So if you want to
right.
get good at making, stuff with like with your, woodworking, what do you got to do? Well, you got to learn a little bit and then you got to go try some stuff. You got to go build some stuff. So the same thing for software, and it's always been that way. It's been that way for my entire career, and I
Yeah,
would imagine before even my time. If you want to learn something, you got to go and build it. So there's a
exactly.
lot of great opportunities to do that. I'm sure you have some ideas that you want to go build, and that's I think a lot of people are afraid of AI, and I get it. I understand. I have my own fears. We could talk about the things that keep me up at night, but there is also a part of this time in software engineering that makes makes it so that this is one of the most exciting times to be a junior engineer, especially because you have so much power. Like a lot of the things that you didn't know or that were stuffed in some senior engineer's head or like some book that you've never heard of or never read, like a lot of those things are at your fingertips, either directly by asking the LLM or by having the LLM produce something and then you can learn from it. So that I think is an amazing experience. And I mentioned Kent Beck a couple times, and I'll find the talk where he did this. I went to this AI conference where he gave a talk about a month, 2 months ago, and him with Martin Fowler. Like those are the two guys who talk the most about code quality and best practices in the last 20 years. And in that talk, he's talking about how amazing it is and what a special time it is to be a junior engineer. And so I think that let's do this. Come on, like let's go build some stuff. Let's dream something that you want to go build, and then go make it happen.
Yep, I love it. Exactly. So, so good. And really just getting that experience building, especially in production, right, is really going to give you those hands-on skills. But you can do, like, anyone can do that now. Like, these things are accessible to everybody. And so I wanted to touch base again real quickly. I know I brought it up, but we didn't get a chance to dive into it. But that agentic coding, like, if someone wanted to learn more about that, like, obviously learning by doing is going to be your fastest path. But if there was like one more step you could recommend for someone, what would you suggest?
Yeah. What would I suggest?
I mean, we can always start with AI. That's like the default. But like, I'm wondering, like, okay, so AI gives you something and you have no clue what it's telling you, if it's right or wrong or what. So like, how would be your next step after that?
So there's not a book for this, right? So I mean, there's no
No.
like we're way too, we're way too cutting edge for there to be books. I think there are a couple of key newsletters that I like to read, and I can send out some of
Oh
the
yeah,
links to
thank you.
those if people want to
Yeah.
keep up with them, where I kind of peruse those newsletters, and they are usually surfacing either like interviews with people who are working at the cutting edge, and they talked about their experiences, like the one I'll showcase or send to you had. Boris, what's his name? Boris Cherny. I don't know, the guy who runs Cloud Code, the guy who invented
Yeah.
Cloud Code, the guy who leads the
Yeah.
team. And had him on there and talked about his workflow and just a bunch of different. That's how I keep up, right? That's how I learned how to do agentic coding. Other than doing it, as I'm just so following along with these industry experts as they communicate in through newsletters. I mean, when I was learning how to code, this kind of ecosystem didn't exist. Like there were some books you could get, maybe you could find them if you knew where to look, but there wasn't a lot to learn from. Maybe go to university, right? But nowadays there's a lot of people producing this kind of like it's like influencer market, you know? There's a bunch of influencers out there making software engineering content. So I'll collect a list for us here before we end, and then I'll send it out, and that'll be a good
Okay.
opportunity for
Perfect.
people.
Awesome. That's great. Well, don't worry, you'll have a minute because we'll get Kyler will join us in like 10 minutes and you won't be in the hot seat anymore. We'll share it around. Thank you. Oh my goodness. But it's such an exciting time. And I think one of the things that I noticed, because I've been working with senior devs for a long time, and one of the things that I thought was so incredible was actually getting to watch a senior dev work. Like if when they can screen share and just, oh, I'm going to do this thing, and they just show you. I feel like in 2 minutes, you can learn more than in like years and years of study because they're just like cutting through everything for you and showing their most optimal path that they've spent like decades potentially refining. And so, like, is that something you'd recommend too? Like, or anything that people, any ways that
Yeah,
people can
so
get
what's
started?
the core of the newsletter advice I was giving? It's like
Yeah.
talk to people who are doing this thing, right?
Yeah.
That's really the core
Yeah.
of the advice. They're either the person writing the newsletter is doing the thing, and so
Mhm.
you're learning from them, or they're talking to somebody who's doing the thing. So if you can talk to somebody who's doing the thing like me, then you have opportunity to learn from me, right? And I don't feel like I'm like the most expert person at all these things, but I am advancing, moving forward in my, in my skills, and we can talk about it together. We learn together. So yes, I think that the principle of talking to somebody else who has done this thing before is like how has anyone learned anything? You either like get it from a book for somebody who did it before, or you apprentice under somebody who's done it before, or you talk to somebody who's done it before. Like that's how learning works.
Exactly, exactly. And I love that word like apprentice because I feel like in tech especially because it's growing so fast and it's expanding, right? Just like the universe is expanding around us, like the tech landscape, it just gets accelerates faster and faster, like more and more. And so there could only be a handful of experts in the world on a certain topic. Like there's no courses, there's no books. Like even AI may break down because nobody's written about it yet. It exists only in someone's minds. And so like that ability to apprentice from senior devs who are on that cutting edge forefront. In fact, this is partly why I left being a professor was because I knew I couldn't be an incredible educator and an incredible technologist. There weren't enough hours in the
Yeah.
day. And yeah, I have kids, so like, I mean, I guess if all I did was tech and
Right.
teach, maybe, but I wanted life too. Ah, shucks, right? So, but I think like this model of being able to apprentice and learn from devs like you, right, and other like getting in the room with people who are doing this, it's just the fastest learning path, even faster than AI, because what we don't know is if the AI is right
Sure.
because
Yeah.
it will lie with impunity. But we don't know when. But yeah, do you find that ever comes up for you, Austin, when you're using AI?
I mean, sure, in the more in the past, right? I think
Yeah.
I don't trust any. I mean, I don't trust opinionated facts that I get from LM. The LM's telling me like
Yeah.
this is clearly the best thing, then I want to go just double check that. If I'm gonna put any money behind that statement, if I'm gonna repeat that to anybody else, look like a fool, then yeah, I'm gonna go just double check that. But honestly, most of the time, I mean, the stuff I get from is pretty good. It's pretty good. The code is pretty good. I
Good.
have found some bugs. Obviously, recently when I'm reviewing my own code generated by LLMs, obviously it's not perfect, but I mean it's pretty good. And the more guardrails I add to it, the better it is. So I do think AI is probably a tool that people are underutilizing for learning. I mean, for
Hmm.
sure. But then I think that AI is only going to take you so far. Like you really need to see. I think the idea is that I could talk to AI, but I'm not gonna. It's gonna be months old, right? Or it's gonna be like things that it come from whenever it was trained, right? Which could be months or even a year or so. And it's kind of like the average of the internet. I think everybody knows that, right? It's not always the best of everything. The internet. It's kind of like the average of the internet. So if you want to be the average developer, that's great. If you want to be the best, I think you got to go talk to people and figure out how you can learn from them.
Yes, exactly. Which is the whole idea behind Tech Innovators, which is like what we're like that's what this is tonight, right? It's a gathering for the Tech Innovator program because it's about not necessarily being as focused on the job, although obviously like that is something that people desire, but like really on investing in yourself as a technologist and like reaching that next level. So super, super awesome. Thank you, Austin. I love that. So if there are any questions for Austin, please feel free to drop them. We're gonna keep chatting here until Kyler comes and we'll switch gears and go into security a little bit. But I think Austin is a really well placed. I mean, he's a former Facebook developer and hiring manager for the mobile division. So if you have questions in there, like please feel free to ask. Especially his area of expertise is behavioral interviews, which is something that isn't often addressed. So I guess that would be one question I would have, Austin, in terms of the interview process. You'd mentioned like connections are number one, and we talked about that. Is there any one thing or like a short list, maybe a short list of things that you would recommend for someone preparing for the interview, sequence and like that behavioral interview, which is like, are you the type of person they want to work with? And anything that you'd recommend, for anyone looking for jobs here.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many levels. I think there's a lot of places where you want to think about. So you want to think about your career choice or your career progression or your career like looking for a job as a funnel, right? So and try to figure out where in that funnel you're having those challenges. So is it I'm having issues getting people to call me back? Okay, that's like a landing page kind of thing, right? In a product. What is that? That's a resume. That's a LinkedIn. That's a reach out. That's a referral, right? So where you work there. If it's like, okay, I'm getting some callbacks, but I'm not getting interviews, okay, that's that. A recruiter call. How can I work on my tell me about yourself? How can I work about positioning myself that such that I can understand what the job is really about so that I can position myself with the recruiter and be able to get that initial tech screen. Okay, it's the tech screen, like, oh, am I able to do the coding part? Am I able to do
Right.
whatever take home, whatever the technical exercises that usually give you as that first step? Okay, if I'm struggling with that, how do I do there? And I think that there's a bifurcation right now or a split happening, and I think that people are moving away. Although it's a small percentage of people that are doing this so far, but people are moving away from traditional just leet code kind of like here's a string, here's an array, like go manipulate it on the whiteboard. People moving away
Yeah.
from that, moving towards some kind of AI pilled experience. Meta has one, Canva, Spotify. A lot of people are going to be experimenting or adopting some kind of AI enabled coding experience, coding test. And so that could be like bring your own environment, use AI, or it could be use some kind of stripped down environment they give you. So you'd want to go and practice some of that and get a chance to talk to some people who have either conducted those interviews or who have been training other people to do those interviews. And then you've got the on-site, right? So like, how do I get ready for the coding, which is often again some kind of AI experience, or the system design and the behavioral part. And there's a couple of great books to read for system design, and there's one great book to read for behavioral, and it's my book. So anyway, we can talk
Perfect.
about that at some point. But
Good.
I think
Well, drop
for
the link.
the first job is to figure out where in the funnel are you having a challenge in order to find this job, right? And maybe there's even things after that like negotiation or whatever other tactics
Right.
that happen after the interview. But pick the right tool for for where you are in the funnel for what challenges you're having.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you, Austin. And just in case anyone isn't familiar with the idea of a funnel, because that's a very entrepreneur concept, which I know, Austin, you're immersed in that because your wife has a business. Um, But like when we say funnel, we mean like the funnel goes from a cold resume going into the pile to you have a job offer and all the steps in between, right? And so what Austin is suggesting is that you look at where you feel like you're getting stopped. And I think for most people, it's they submit their resume, they don't hear anything back. It's like a black hole. So, right. So what we're recommending is connections are the fastest way to overcome that particular hurdle. But then you could get on an interview and not get an offer. I have seen students, and it's very frustrating, where they go on interview after interview, right? And actually, what usually comes down to on the interview itself is confidence, right? That like knowing that you can do this and having confidence in your abilities, even in the face of the unknown, is big. And obviously, Austin's behavioral tips are going to be awesome. We'll drop the link for that book for you guys here in a moment. But that's, there's a couple places, right? So you have to know your stuff, but you also have to be confident in it, not overconfident. But I can tell you a story. I'll take a brief moment and tell you a story about I had two students, same class. They had all the same classes with me, right? One was a C average, one was an A average. Which one do you think got hired first? Would it
The
surprise
A
you to
average.
hear the C average got hired
Yeah.
first? Now, why is that? Because he had skills that were not assessed in a college classroom grading system. He was very good at talking to people. He was very good at navigating personal relationships. So not only did he get hired first to do work he may not have been qualified for because I was his professor. I saw what he could do on his exams, but he very quickly navigated into management. So he didn't stay there long enough for anyone to realize that he didn't necessarily have those skills. He just went right and became a manager, which he actually had great people skills. So it was like a good move for him versus the A student who was a lovely human, but had no confidence. So he executed, but he didn't have confidence in his abilities. It took him a year to get hired of applying. The other guy got hired before he left, before he graduated college, right? So I like they're like we're emphasizing connections, confidence. Like there's some real critical skills that come out and are difference makers for going on the job market that you may or may not see in a traditional tech course, right? And so just be aware of those things, understand where you're getting stuck, and move forward, move beyond it. Awesome. So we do have some questions, Austin. We can take, and I've texted Kyler. He's on his way. I love it. So we had a question, how can I use AI to improve my coding skills and software creation skills? And Austin said, start by asking AI. I love that,
Yeah,
which I
I mean,
could.
I think I tried to add a little bit more usefulness after that, but yeah, I was like, hey,
Yeah.
if you have a question, like, let's start by asking AI the question. But then I think more helpfully, how do I use AI to help me improve? So one thing is I ask it about certain concepts, certainly when I'm going in and when I'm about to build some new part of, new feature. I'm going to ask it like, how would you approach this? Like, what are the pitfalls, or like, what are the concerns for security, or whatever. So I ask it these questions, and then I'm doing a couple things. First, I'm learning how to do it, but also I'm sort of assessing what it knows before,
Yeah.
because I could just one shot it, like, oh yeah, just go build me this thing and go for it. And sometimes I'm very confident that it does that for certain classes of tasks. I don't have to like investigate it before I say like add a button on the website that takes you to this other page. It's like a simple thing. I know it's very confident it'll do that quickly. But certain parts where especially when I'm like adding data, adjusting the database schema, or like I'm doing things which change the API, things that are durable. Like these changes are likely to be to endure for months at a time, or have implications for future versions of the software. Especially for me, I'm developing mobile apps, so it's really important that whatever version of the software I send to the wild, that thing will live in somebody's machine forever. Like there are some people who just like never update that code, so I need to be careful about what I ship. It's not like the web where everybody just refreshes and then they get the new version. So I have to be a little bit careful about some changes, and so I try to interview it a little bit, see what it knows. But then, yeah, like I'm also learning from it directly. And the other thing you can do is once you have it generate code for you, you can go read that code and ask it questions like, "Why did you do this? Why did you do that?" And sometimes you're right and it's wrong. So I've noticed that, like, oh, okay, like, well, I probably should have. I'm glad I caught this. And why did you do this? And it says, oh yes, like actually I don't need that. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever, deal with it yourself. But other times it's teaching me something, like telling me something I didn't realize or I didn't understand. So I think you can ask AI about the code. That's one of the superpowers of leveraging LLMs and code bases.
Exactly. And making sure you run it and test it for yourself. Right. I feel like one of the keys with using AI is that trust but verify, just as you would with an employee. So basically, AI has converted us all into team leads, right? Where we would say, hey, do this for me. We're delegating to the AI, and now we have to confirm. did it actually align with what with our vision or not? And how do you know that? Well, you have to get it running. You have to test it, right? You can look at it, you can ask it questions about the code quality. Because I remember I was using like a builder and I was like in build mode where I wasn't paying attention to the code under the hood. I was just trying to get the interface and the functionality going. And then I made a change down the line. Like this is like a month after starting, doing it here and there in my off hours. And I was like, I made a change somewhere. And then it only changed in one place. And I was like, you duplicated that code, didn't you? Right? Like it's like it didn't know to like, hey, you copied and pasted. Now so like I put that on the back burner. I usually fix things twice where I do the expedient fix. I just wanted to get it up and running so I could launch. So I did copy it that one time. I said, okay, go fix the bug over there too. And then I put it on my to-do list, like, okay, when I have some extra credits, I'm gonna like go dive in and like have it actually fix that properly. But do you ever get that where AI starts to get a little bit? I feel like this is more a problem with the builders and like Claude Code specifically. But like, do you ever feel like it like you need to really get firm with it? It's not listening.
Yeah, I mean, I think the places where it does that is where you need to restart, right? Like start the task over again. Sometimes it's cheap. I understand that it costs tokens, right? But I think sometimes especially when it's gone down the wrong path, it's it's in its context window. It's like even if you remove it from the from the Git branch or whatever, it's still got this sense that like, oh yeah, I was doing it this way, right? And then it's keeping that, which is power that is one of the superpowers of like how we code, right? Is we remember we did something on this file, and then we have to like update that file and relative to that the previous change that we made. And of course, they've trained the AI to do the same thing, which is the like same process. It's a feature, but then when you realize that, oh, you went down the wrong path, like you used the wrong construct, wrong API, or the like wrong structure for the code that you're trying to build here, then it has a hard time forgetting about that. So for me, I'm like at that point, you just start over, and then
Yeah.
burn through the tokens and live with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I have that sometimes my cloud gets confused because I'm building multiple brands, multiple businesses at the same time. I'm like, okay, we're going to be over here for a little bit. And I'm like, wait a minute, switch over here. And it's like giving me what was over here. It's like, no, 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 no. We switched. Yeah, so sometimes there's a little bit of lag. I love that. Thank you. That's so much fun. Let's see. I thought there's a question from Mateus. When creating a mobile app, how do you design the infrastructure and what is your thinking process? That's
Yeah,
a good.
Mateus, can you tell me more about what you mean by infrastructure? Do you mean like how do if I have nothing, like file new project, why do I even start thinking about that? Is that the question? Do you want to come off mute and tell me?
Yeah, you could unmute if you need to. It's fine.
Yeah, so what I mean is once you have like a solid idea and you want to connect the pieces together and like overall like just structure it, like creating a diagram per se, what is going through your mind on like how you connect the pieces together? Because what I find is when I have a good idea and I kind of know how everything is like, gonna be created, it's hard for me to put the pieces together of like all the different applications that I want in the app to like kind of merge together and like into like a
Hmm.
fluid app that works very well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of approaches here. The first thing I would think about is because most people expect their mobile apps to be really well designed. Like the whole point of a mobile experience is that it's easy to use and something that's intuitive and something you can use with your fingers. A lot of this starts with the design process. So I have yet to use a Claude design that was released last week. I haven't used it yet. I heard it's like really a suck on tokens. I have used Pencil, which is a really popular design-oriented tool that you can then that spits out JSON that you can then put into Claude Code to help you build stuff, and it's pretty good. Like you can establish a design system and tell it what kind of buttons you want, tell it what kind of fonts you want, et cetera, and or it'll help you just design that system. I actually had it like import my design system from my existing app or from a website. But then I think that really beginning with that UI design. I know this is a little bit waterfallish kind of thinking, but I still think that's the best way to do this for a mobile app because if you start going down this path of establishing data and like pulling it here and pulling it there, and if you start actually building something and you realize actually I want a totally different user experience than what we're having here, then a lot of those assumptions have to kind of go out the window or you have to redo a bunch of stuff. So I would actually start with the UI. Once you have a UI in place, then it should be a matter of thinking about where the data goes. Like that's usually the next thing I think about is okay, what data do I need? Where am I going to get that data? Where am I going to pull it from? And honestly, I prefer I understand that AI can do a lot of things, but I still prefer to do things incrementally. That will give you a better experience from a product perspective as you start to use something, and then you give it to users, you get feedback from the users. But also, it's going to, AI is not perfect, so I think it's better still at incremental building than it is like giving you something a one-off. So I think this is where you start with something really basic, like I just want simple screens that display the data, et cetera, et cetera. And then you're going to be going through that process. You're going to be making a couple of choices, right? Like what kind of APIs are you going to use? Where are you going to store this data, right? When are you going to fetch it? Do you need to refetch it? Do you need to, update it? How are you going to, if you're going to use data in multiple places in the app, like the same user's profile or something, you display it here, display it there. How are you going to keep that data synced between those different parts of the app? So you're starting to make those kind of decisions, even though the user interface is not super polished, right? And then you can take that kind of prototype that just is a usable prototype that shows live data. Then you can start to use AI to massage that into the like final designs that you want. So for me, that's the process. I mean, there's a bunch of layers there. We the most difficult layer is certainly the data one for mobile because there's such an expectation that the changes that I make immediately on my phone are reflected, wherever on the server and on the web version of this thing and like on every single screen, right? So there's a lot of like data consistency challenges you have in mobile apps, and we could talk about like how to solve those things. But that's how I would think about it. That's how I build my mobile apps, is through that process. Like understand what the user's needs are, make some designs, build a very basic prototype, and then start to refine that into something that looks and feels great for users.
Awesome. Thank you, Austin. So just for anyone who's joined late, Austin used to be a mobile developer at Facebook or Meta, and also was responsible for hiring most of their team for a bunch of years. So yeah, he knows what he's talking about when he talks about how to design a mobile app. So thank you so much, Austin, for that. I see another really great question from Jacques in here, but I want to hold that question because I think it's going to be more meaningful once we introduce Kyler. At the end, I'd like to have a couple like questions that you can both answer, especially like this kind of like the future of software engineering careers and how AI plays into that. I think that's a really great culminating
We
discussion.
all want to know the answer to that question for
I
sure.
know, seriously, exactly. But we can at least like share what we're seeing from our vantage
Sure. Yeah.
point, right?
Yeah.
To give Kyler a hot second to like shift context switch from putting children to bed and switching to cybersecurity Zoom land. I did want to let you all know if you're here, please stay until the end. I'm going to share a link with you in the chat so we offer a program called Tech Innovators, where if you want, you can actually dive deep and learn from the mentors we have tonight, Austin and Kyler. We have one more mentor. They're into it. They're from AWS, but they need to get permission from higher ups, and so that can't, they're not. I won't get that permission until like for another week. If that falls through, okay, I'll find another equally as auspicious mentor as well for you. But the last mentor for the June month, a couple sessions is still being worked out. But if you want to go deep on learning from, getting in the room like this, but not just talking about tech, but actually doing it and building it and getting feedback on what you're building, right? I invite you to apply for the Tech Innovators program. And so, what I've included in the chat right now, we are going to give away a spot, right? It's a $3,000 value. The cohort starts from this Sunday through July 15th. So it's like a little, like a mini course with three different senior devs, also community building events. I think I'm going to host a resume workshop just so people can figure out how to translate what they're learning onto their resumes. And so if you're interested in that, please fill out this form because tonight, one of the people that applies is going to get is going to win. But you have to be here live, right? And I'll do it at the end. So just FYI, apply now, right? And I'm looking forward to it. It's very exciting. So I think actually the winner from last cohort, Georgia, is actually here. But anyways, so yes, and yeah, it's really, really fun. So thank you all for this. And thank you, Austin. That was so incredible. And I love all these links. We'll definitely grab those and share them. And we'll circle back and we'll have a group thing, but I'll let you take a breather off the hot seat for a second, and I'll talk to Coach Kyler for a bit, if that's cool. Awesome. Welcome. Coach Kyler is our cybersecurity expert for this cohort. In Tech Innovators, we try to step beyond the basic fundamentals of coding and go deeper into like particular topics. And so one of those is security, cloud, right? Mobile development, things like that. And so Kyler, would you like to introduce yourself? It's like the one thing like Kyler is incredible. He's been working with us for a very long time. He gives talks all over the world about coding. I think my favorite part about Kyler's transition to getting a dev job is that he automated his day job to study to become a developer. So true coder, right? True coder at heart there. And we're super, super excited to have him here. So Kyler, would you like to just briefly mention a little bit about yourself and then we can ask a couple questions?
Yeah, sure. So hey everybody, I'm Kyler Johnson. I was working in operations department doing a bunch of spreadsheets and formatting reports and looking up in an agent like kind of system thing and just moving data around back in the day and I was trying to break into tech. I was just kind of learning on the side. I learned enough to actually automate my entire job. I didn't tell anybody there, and then I spent all day, every day learning to code. And then a few months after that, I landed my first dev job, and that was probably a little over 10 years ago now. But yeah, I've worked a variety of places. I was a consultant for a while, did some things there, but the last 5 or 6 years, I've been working exclusively on building next generation cyber intelligence software. So there's kind of a lot that goes into that, but basically the tools that cybersecurity experts need to use on their daily basis to find, investigate, and mitigate cyber threats. And so I kind of work at the segue of where software engineering meets cybersecurity. So web security is a top priority for us because it'd look pretty bad if a cyber intelligence platform didn't have web security down, right? So that's been a big importance for us over the last few years. So that's kind of where what I focus on.
I love it. Thank you so much, Kyler. I asked this question of Austin earlier, so I'll ask it of you as well. Many people in the room are aspiring software developers, right? Most of them have had data structures, right? So they're mostly college students, academy alums, or current students on the internship, right? But many of them are aspiring developers. Do you have any recommendations? Like if you had to pick like one thing that you'd recommend, or a short list of things, what would you recommend for someone looking to break into the industry? Like, what would you recommend that they focus on?
Uh, there's two things really. The first is having a project out there, something that that can showcase your skills, something that I'm always surprised that uh the number of applications that I've received with and people have their own personal websites. They have some like basic level projects where they did a little bit of HTML and CSS and stuff. But nothing that tells me that, hey, I know what I'm doing and I can come in and be productive. It doesn't like you don't have like if you watch a lot of these YouTube videos, you don't have to have like 10, 12 projects that are like just super robust, like applications that are ready to go to market, right? You don't have to have that. But what you need to have is one you can get by with one really robust app that maybe you could bring to market. And even if you don't have any intentions of bringing it to market, if you just if it's something if it's a product that is usable that showcases like, hey, you know how to set up a database, you know how to read data from a database, you know how to expose that to a UI, and somebody can interact with that and actually use it to accomplish a goal. And if it looks decent, if it's relatively easy to use, then hey, that's great. You can give them a demo login, make it easy. Don't force a prospective employer to put their email in there, right? So give them a demo login, and so that they can no pressure. You're not going to reach out and spam them if they try to log into your app or anything. So and if you do that, you know that's a good way to get your foot in the door. Um, the second thing is when you finally get that interview or you're around other developers networking, you need to be able to speak the vernacular. And you need to sound like you belong. If you sound like you belong, people will think you belong. And the best way I've found to do that is consuming content, YouTube uh, and podcasts. I listen to podcasts religiously, and I've been doing that for well over 10 years. And I can't tell you, especially early in my career, even before I got a job, I can't tell you how much knowledge that I've gained from listening to podcasts. It's astounding, just a staggering amount of information. Like there are very few things that you can talk about in the development industry that I don't have some idea about, and it's because I've been listening to podcasts for so long. I don't always know the implementation details, but I know, hey, this technology works with that. I may not know what it's about or how to use it yet, but I know it exists. I know where to look. And and all that is from listening to podcasts, but it also taught me how to sound like a developer.
Hmm.
So, and early in my career, that was very, very important. It also exposed me to ideas that I wasn't aware of yet. So it gave me avenues to research. It exposed me to problems I didn't even know existed yet because I didn't have the experience to have encountered them. So podcasts and just working on something, building out that project's where the rubber meets the road. That's where you take this technical knowledge you gain from these videos and tutorials and you put it to practice. And that's where you identify these gaps in your knowledge that you wouldn't have recognized just doing tutorials. So building stuff and listening to podcasts is my recommendation.
I love that. And actually, if anyone from the Academy is here, Kyler long ago gave us a list of his favorite podcasts and YouTubers. I'm sure we can drop it in the chat for anyone who's not in the Academy, to kind of um do that. Excellent. I love that. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And then Austin, I think, had some podcasts as well on the list. So yeah, there's tons out there. But I think the themes that we're seeing, so Kyler, what came out with Austin is we talked about the importance of connections. And you what came out with your suggestion is that of deploying into production, which we also have seen that trend, right? Is that book learning is great, but it's about actually deploying it to production and getting that experience and having the confidence in that. Like, yeah, that confidence comes in because once you've done it and you've put something into the world and it works, right? Like that shows up. Like you show up differently in your interviews because you're not afraid. You're like, yeah, I can do this, right? Like I think the way to think about it is when you're preparing for like a software developer job, you're already the software developer they want to hire. You need to know that because their confidence will never in yourself and your abilities will never be more than your confidence in yourself and your abilities. So if you don't, it's not about being overconfident though, but it's about taking the actions that you need to give yourself that confidence, right? So inside the academy, we do it with a guaranteed internship. But like that hands-on experience, getting to deploy into production, that is absolutely essential. So, so good. So thank you. Oh, good. Excellent. Thank you, Kyler. Kyler's got his podcast list up there. Awesome. I love it. Oh, thank you, Austin. So many good links here. Love it. Okay, I think there was like another question that came up, but I did want to ask. So, Kyler, I had one more question for you, like kind of more topically. If you know, because your area of expertise is really that boundary of cybersecurity and software engineering. If someone wanted to go one step deeper on security and like really getting comfortable in that space, do you have any recommendations for how they'd start? I mean, yeah, okay, ask AI. That'd be the first step, right? And then what's the step behind that one?
So, just to clarify, do you mean like just like in terms of when you're building things securely, or you mean kind of getting in more into the cybersecurity career aspect?
Well, I think actually kind of both sides. Like, how would they go one step deeper on becoming a bet like more security aware for both building and maybe if someone wanted to step into cybersecurity? I don't know if anyone here is interested in that or if it's mostly software engineering, but definitely like, okay, if you want to like learn how to make things more secure and get up to date on that lingo and the practice best practices, like where would they go? What would you recommend?
The best place to start would be OWASP, and I will grab a link here. I'm going to post two links. The first one is going to be to the OWASP site itself. And this is an organization that focuses on improving software security throughout the entire world, basically. It's an open source project, tons of community contributors. But every year, they post a top 10 And this is a list of top 10 most common security problems they see in software products. And this is the second link I'm posting here now. Uh, they have a ton of amazing information on this site. So if you go to this top 10 list from 2025, you'll see like the top one, for example, is a broken access control. You can go in, you can click on that and you can read about what it is. And they have descriptions there. They have details on how you can prevent it. They have example attack scenarios, and all kinds of references in here. Like this is an amazing roadmap for the most common web security problems you'll see.
I love it. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Excellent. I don't know if I'm seeing any other questions. If you have specific questions for Kyler, please put them in the chat. Um, I think what I'm seeing is a couple questions that are a little bit about kind of time management and balancing these different things. So Aria's had a couple questions here, so I'll kind of try and summarize. And so maybe we can both, both Austin and Kyler, we can talk about these things together. So one of the questions was, how do you recommend balancing your time when it comes to like leadership and clubs and academics and research with a professor? So like these are very like academic pathway concerns. And then like what do you bring into the interview? And then I feel like this is related, so I'm going to group it together. Is security super important, but like should you emphasize data science and analytics or like so it's really about I think this question is really about prioritizing. Like how do you prioritize what you invest your time in to prepare for this? And then what do you highlight about it on the interview? Would you guys care to weigh in on your thoughts there?
Yeah, I'll take a pass there.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of it depends on your own personal interests, and so I think there are certain things you probably shouldn't invest in. I mean, like COBOL, if you could be fascinated with COBOL, like mainframes, but like I don't think that's a great thing to invest your time in. I mean, there are some jobs available for that, I'm sure, but who knows? So I think there are certain things that you need to filter. Your interests need to filter through. What's needed in the market, but the things you just mentioned, like data science or security or like regular software engineering, all those things are super valuable. So for me, it's less about which one should I focus on and more about what are you most interested in? Because whatever you're interested in, whatever you're passionate about, whatever you want to spend the next whatever X hours building example code and talking to people about and consuming content about, like Kyler was talking about, that's the thing that you're going to become an expert in. And so I would recommend that you go down the path of what's interesting to you. I would not be concerned with any of the job direction any more than I am with any other white collar job. We could talk about that at some point, but like if assuming that AI doesn't replace us all and we're all on UBI or something, then I would any of those paths are valuable. I would come back to the question about academia. I think I was in academia. I did get a PhD, and we could talk about that whole process. But for me, I would try to first understand what the end of your end goal is. So if your end goal is to get into graduate school, then I think that doing research with an undergraduate professor is the most important thing you can do, and getting that referral letter to the colleges where you want to conduct your research. If your goal is industry and being able to work as a software engineer or work as a security researcher or whatever, then I think industry experience and internships are the most important things there. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where we're preparing our profile, we're getting real experience, we're building referrals, we're building networks. Like that's going to be more important. So that would be what I would say. And then this last question, and I'm curious what Kyler thinks, but this last question about what to highlight in an interview. I think that you need to do two things there. So one is understand what it is the hiring manager is interested in assessing, and that depends on where you're trying to go. So like a hiring manager that's a college professor who's hiring a research assistant is very different than a hiring manager who's at a company hiring a software engineer. So I don't know what the context is, but in my book, I spent a lot of time thinking about highlighting or trying to teach you what a hiring manager values. Like what are I talk about 8 different signal areas, things like ownership and handling ambiguity and perseverance and conflict resolution, whatever. We talk about them some other time, but and if you go to my website, I have a bunch of podcasts you can watch. So if you're like, oh, I really want to find out about behavioral interviews, I'm like one of the 3 people in the world that's excited about behavioral interviews. You can go and check out my website up at the bottom. I got a bunch of podcasts. Go watch the podcast. So consuming and figuring out what these hiring managers really want to see, and then you kind of merge that or like do the Venn diagram of that with your union, that's what I'm looking for. Sorry, I was looking for the set language. Union that with what's happened in your career, and then that's the set of things that you want to talk about. So, what are the parts of my career that are most relevant to the hiring manager? First, you got to understand what they were interested in. Look at the job description. Look at general software engineering stuff, like I'm giving you here in this podcast, and then being able to look at your career and doing some work. And I have in the book, I have a bunch of questions you can ask yourself about, like what kind of projects and what kind of experiences for each one of these different 8 signal areas that hiring managers look for. Anyway, long conversation there, but that's the short answer.
I love it. Thank you so much, Austin. And I'll have two things to add, but I really want to hear Kyler first. So, like, anything else you'd like to add or weigh in on there?
I agree with a lot of what Austin said. Your interest plays a huge part. I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me over the years and asked for my help to get into code. Um, and they get started, they start out really excited, and then once they get into it and they realize that this is kind of difficult to learn, the interest just isn't there. They don't have enough of an interest to drive them through the difficult parts. They're not having fun with it. And for me, yeah, I'm not gonna lie and say that I never got frustrated, because there were some times where like I was just beating my head against a problem and I got frustrated. But I was also like, I'm a little stubborn. Okay, I'm a lot stubborn, actually. So like I can't let something beat me. So if I was struggling with something, I will not give up. And sometimes that's to my own detriment. But uh I can't, like, if it's a puzzle to me and I have to figure it out. And I will figure it out. It's just a matter of time. And sometimes it takes a while. So I did get frustrated sometimes, but if you have enough interest in this and enough to get through that, or you like the puzzle, you enjoy the challenge, then uh, that's that's kind of first and foremost. If you don't like that kind of challenge, like mental puzzle or challenge, then I think you're going to have a lot harder time. You'll be doing this on discipline alone rather than interest. It can be done. I know people who have made good careers in software engineering on discipline alone. It can be done, but they're not very happy.
Yeah.
So that's so the part Austin said about interest is really, really important. The other thing is you need to know that you're not going to have every skill that they have. I've never once in my career had every skill that they posted on a job description. Never once. So the trick is figuring out what the most important things are. And if you get an interview, that means there's a pretty good chance your resume or application told them that you knew enough that you were worth talking to. Once you get that first interview, it's not about knowing everything. In fact, there's a lot of interviewers that ask you questions that almost nobody knows. And they do that to see if they can get you to admit that you don't know. It's a huge turnoff in this field if you can't admit that you don't know something. And one of the answers that you want to give to something like that is, I don't know, but I bet I can find out. And if you don't get a chance, if sometimes I've had them give me a chance to go look it up and figure it out real quick. In other cases, I got off the interview, I went and looked it up, learned about it, and then I sent them a follow-up email and said, "Hey, I went and I didn't know about this. You asked about it, so I went and did some research. This is what I learned." And in some cases, I've even put it together some projects where applicable, some basic projects to showcase an integration or something that we were talking about. And that landed me a job one time. That gave me a $30,000 pay raise. So that was uh, that was a big deal. But it's mostly a lot of the interview is about letting them know that you're not a psychopath, and like you're not going to come in and cause a bunch of like behavioral or like cultural issues. In other words, you're not going to come in and create a lot of arguments and people are so stressed out and focused on that they're not getting work done. They want to make sure that you're not going to be a problem. And then they also want to know, they want people that are driven. They want people that aren't going to sit around on their hands and wait to be told every little thing to do. They want people that can take ownership, think for themselves, and figure out what needs to be done and just go do it. Take the initiative and do it. And then and then You really, in an interview, one of the most important things is you need to say the right things and do the things that you need to do so that you can convince somebody that, hey, I can figure this out. Even if I don't know it right now, they need, I can figure this out. They need to have confidence that anything you don't know, you can learn and and contribute, right? So if you create that confidence that you are excited about learning, that you can learn new things and you can jump into it, to be honest, if you have the a basic core skill set they're looking for, then you can learn everything else. And you just have to create that confidence in the interviewer.
I love it. Thank you so, so much. And I think just to kind of one of the things just that kind of ties what Austin and Kyler were saying together is knowing your audience and what they value. And specifically on an interview, it's who are you talking to, right? And so like taking the time to think about what do they value, what do they care about. And so I think this is really hard for anyone who is in a personal interaction, but the more you can make it about them and less about you, right? That's a little like mind trick you can do to be like, how do I give them what they're looking for? Right? So like how Kyler said, sometimes they'll ask questions intentionally to make sure you can say that you don't know. And so, and like knowing that may come up, think about and maybe have a conversation with AI about ways to express that, right? That can still make you look good. Like that's, as an entrepreneur, there's always a reframe to the messaging that we use in business, right? There's always another way to say it. And that's something that we can do for ourselves as well. Like, I mean, okay, this is a really random, funny example, but like, okay, I'm working on reducing my weight. I've had 5 kids, and so I've gained a lot of weight. And so I was reaching for a cupcake and a glass fell and shattered out of my kitchen cabinet. And so I could be like, wow, the universe really is looking out for me. Right? Like I could be annoyed. Oh, sorry, team. I'm 10 minutes late because I cut myself and I'm cleaning up this glass in my kitchen that shattered. And I could be annoyed about it. Or I could be like, wow, the universe has got my back, man. Right? Like, so everything is a reframe. And so when you're in the interview, that mindset of like how to present yourself in the best light, you can practice that in advance. You can have AI work with you and mock interview and like talk back and I'll say, "Hey, can you reframe this?" I do this all the time because sometimes we don't, know exactly how we want to communicate effectively to people. So sometimes I'll just like brain dump a message I want to send and I'll say, "Hey, I, can you make this like I one time I was letting a staff member go." Okay, so like that was a higher stakes thing and I didn't know how to say it right. And so I put it through AI and it spit something back at me. It was like, "Oh, that's way better." I tweaked it up so it still sounded like me, right? And I was like, "Okay." But like you can actually practice this so that you can show up live and really embody that mindset of like you are the person they want to hire. They wouldn't have invited you to interview if you weren't. So start from there and then think about how do I answer questions so that it's about you both finding a good match. It's not about, oh my God, can I get this job? It's like, is this the right job for me? And that's a power move on an interview where like you're really signaling that like you are an A player in that interview because you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. Okay, I'll take my interview hat off for a second. And the other thing I want to mention is that Aria had asked a question about what to focus on in terms of time, of activities, and subject areas. And Asta had mentioned, well, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And so I want to flip this a little bit. So, like, every one of us is here because we have a unique contribution to make in tech. And the contribution that I make is not going to be the same contribution that Kyler or Austin will make. We all have unique contributions. A really quick story I can share with you is that I once taught a student who was legally blind. She graduated with a computer science degree and became a six-figure software developer. I don't know about you. If I was legally blind, I probably would not have the perseverance to be like, yes, I'm going all in on programming, which is a very visual thing. But she did. And when she got a job, she got hired by Chase Manhattan Bank and she ends up making software more accessible for those who are totally blind. So she could see a little tiny bit, like she could see this much of her screen if she made it really, really big. And so she took what many of us would have viewed as this really like this big insurmountable challenge, and she turned it into a gift because she had a unique perspective on tech for other people in the world. And so that's what I just want you to think about. It's like kind of flip this question. Should I do data science? Should I do security, right? Should I do activities? Like let all that go. Do what calls to you as fun, but also focus on what is your unique contribution, right? Like my unique contribution was not necessarily to be on the front lines of tech, although I manage people who are like working to learn and be on the front lines of tech. I'm more of like I'm more of an educator who who inspires people and gets them excited, right? Like that. Like I'm like a PR rep for for tech. Like I can do it, but like I'm a front man, right? And so like I have a friend who and some of you may know him, Coach Keith, right? Like he goes way deep on the tech and like goes so deep on making his own NLP and ML systems, right? But like he might not be able to get people to respond to an email from him, just the way he talks, right? So I wouldn't necessarily be building that unique NLP system. He would. He wouldn't necessarily be like on the front lines, inspiring people to pursue tech. That's my job, right? We all have a unique role to play in this field. And so, Aria, when you're asked, and this goes for anyone asking these types of questions about priorities, focus on your unique contribution, whatever that looks like, and that will lead your path because that's what's also going to open doors to pathways and job opportunities as well. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox there a little bit. I do have a program called Life Engineering that I'm kickstarting. So, anyways, I do a lot of coaching on careers as well. It kind of just happens. Okay, so I love this. But we have some specific questions. I'd really like, in the interest of time, I'd really like to, have with both Kyler and Austin here. I would love to ask a question about where AI and tech careers are going because I feel like everybody is asking this question. So I'm going to give them a hot second to like formulate. I'm going to paste one more time just for anyone that joined late. I am giving away a spot in our next Tech Innovators cohort, which starts Sunday, goes from Sunday to July 15th. That's, there's mentor things once a week, and then we have support once a week on Wednesday nights. We'll bring Suzanne on a little bit later. Um, and so if you're interested, $3,000 value, you can come and join us in the next cohort. Please uh, click on the survey link I just dropped in the chat and you can fill it out. And then as long as you can be here live at the end, I'll pick one lucky winner. They'll get to come in with us. Yep, super awesome. Okay, good. Just want to make sure nobody missed that. Okay, so AI is here now. Hi, folks. I've been hanging out with Austin and Kyler since before AI was like a thing. So we've been coaching students on six-figure dev jobs for a
The
very long time.
old-fashioned way.
I know the old-fashioned way. I've been learning to do it with just Google. Although that's usually what I taught is like, can you do it even
How do
if
you
Google or
Google this
AI
thing?
failed? But that's okay, the old-fashioned way, right? So what are your thoughts in terms of like where like tech jobs and tech careers are going with AI and evolving with this
Yeah.
new technology in front of us?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say is anybody that knows where it's going is probably lying to you, or they don't know, right? Maybe they're right. I don't know. Maybe they're guessing. Like I don't. I mean, this is one of the things I referenced that talk, and I sent the link to Kent and Martin's talk, and they have said the same things. Like anybody who thinks they know is you're just selling some kind of snake oil. So let me tell you some facts that I can tell you right now from my vantage point is that software is still a very powerful tool in the world in order to achieve like world changing goals or make a lot of money, whatever, however you want to frame it. Like software is still at the core of that. That change engine inside of the world. I would also say that for your perspective as a career, you need to be owning more of the stack. So full stack, if you're that full stack used to being like, oh, I could do front end and back end. Now full stack means I own the like business context, the customer relationships, the sales part, the marketing part. Like that's full stack now. So more and more is going to be expected of us as engineers. And I think in the past we could get away with like, oh yeah, like somebody will create some Jira tickets somewhere and then like we'll build some stuff and then they'll create some more Jira tickets and we'll build some more stuff. And I don't think that world is, I think that world is going away. So I think the world that you need to embrace is let me understand more about what's happening outside of just the code, so that I can be the person who's no longer waiting for someone to instruct me in what to do. But that's the AI's job. The AI's job is now to wait for instructions, but that our job is to give instructions, right? And to understand what the context is, and to be able to go and affect change in whatever organization you're a part of. And I think that not just software engineers, but any knowledge worker, that will be like, if there are, again, if unless we're all replaced by the machines, if there are still knowledge workers, that's what the knowledge workers will be doing, is building agentic workflows to understand what's happening in the business, understand what's happening in the outside world, take that into the organization, make some changes, connect with others or other agents or other people inside the organization, and then affect change on the outside world. Like, that's going to be the loop that the humans are engaged in, if there's humans at all. And that's what I have to say about that.
I love it. Thank you, Austin. Awesome. So, Lynn, I can't wait to hear if you pop in the chat. So I want you, Kyler, a chance to answer the question as well, and then we can have follow up. No worries.
Because my questions is really existential, and it could actually apply to both of them.
Right.
So,
no, exactly. So well, hold on. Let's
so
hear Kyler,
bring the next guy on.
Yep. It's all good. It's all good. Awesome. Kyler, yeah, anything you'd like to add or share your perspective on that?
Yeah, so all right. So here's the thing, right? If AI replaces software development, like a lot of people are afraid of, like Austin said, every knowledge worker is gone. It may come to the more tech savvy industries first, and it may take a while to propagate to other industries, but it won't take long. And if knowledge workers are truly starting to be replaced by AI, then all knowledge workers are going to be replaced by AI. So it's not just going to be software development. It's going to be anything that doesn't require your, you know, physical manipulation of the world. At least until robotics get cheap enough to operate at scale. Um, you know, and then they'll replace us there too. But that's we're a long way off from that. Uh, from AI, nobody, like Austin said, nobody really knows. Uh, I know it's a powerful tool. I know that another point that I like that Austin made is that more is expected of developers. So when I first got into development, that was kind of the thing. I was a full stack developer for most of my career, and I was expected to work the back end, the database, getting stuff deployed. Some people call that site reliability engineers, or DevOps, or I guess platform engineering is the latest term now, and stuff like that. And I was actually like on the phone with users that had problems and were actively fixing their bugs. So in some cases, I worked as like kind of like a product manager and stuff like that. And then as I got into as the field kind of evolved, and there started to be a lot more specialization where they would have platform engineering teams, or back end developers, and then front end developers, right? So people started to specialize that way. And then that's where you had product managers that would, like, your roles became very segmented. Only you had this very narrow realm of responsibility. And the downside to that is that communication becomes a lot more important. And communication is something that people struggle with. Uh, I like to tell this story briefly. I'll just mention this, but I've seen the change in one preposition going from one meeting to another. The change in a single word, one preposition, cost a company $17 million. Communication is difficult. It's especially difficult in highly nuanced fields like this, where one preposition saying around instead of on cost a company $17 million. Because it resulted in another team interpreting what they were supposed to go build in a completely separate way. They went and built one thing, another team went and built the other, and it didn't line up. And to fix it cost about $17 million worth of effort. So that was substantial. I've also seen pretty simple. The largest one I've seen cost a global company, almost $1 billion. They spent almost $1 billion building a software product, and they got to the end and realized that some things were not communicated correctly up front, and the whole project fell apart. It cost them $1 billion in 8 years of development. And that's not something software or AI is going to solve. That's communication. So this is where I like to talk about AI is a valuable tool. It'll help you build this stuff faster, but it's not going to solve those problems. It's still going to need people who are experts in the field that can translate what users actually need and what the business needs to keep the doors open and the lights on to what the actual product is in the technical implementation. There's got to be some sort of conduit there that can speak both languages. And that's where engineers are going to live now. I still write a lot of code by hand. AI is not good enough to that you don't know how to write code. And in fact, only simple like I mean, I'm surprised at what it can output in some cases, and then I'm surprised at like some really simple stuff it can't seem to figure out. And the better, the more you know about how to implement something, and the more specific you can get with the prompt, the better it is. So that knowledge has to be there. And if you don't have that experience in the field or that knowledge there, then how are you going to give it the prompt necessary? So one of two things is going to happen. First, AI has to get good enough to make those decisions on its own, and we're a long way from that currently in anything beyond trivial applications. Um, or you're going, people are still going to have to learn this manually, right? Because we're going to have a generation of people coming into this that they just build simple things with AI. And that's not teaching them the fundamentals that they need to actually use AI in a corporate scale. And another thing too is there's a lot of legacy code out there, and a lot of the legacy code I've seen is gnarly. And I'm working on a code base right now that AI has no idea about. Like it is useless. Like if I try to, no matter how I direct it, AI is like, it doesn't do anything without breaking things.
Mhm.
And it's just the code base, legacy code bases can be quite gnarly. And AI is not going to be helpful with that kind of stuff because it's not trained on that kind of like super gnarly code. I've got some horror stories about that, but that's conversations for another time.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. Oh my gosh. No, guys, this is so, so good. Thank you so much. Like, and I think just to kind of like wrap up like what, because you and Austin were really saying some very similar things, right? About that ownership, right? Like knowing how to communicate. Well, that like again, actually, to be honest, this is like the whole thing we've actually the whole theme of the night is about communication, whether you're on an interview, knowing your audience, when you're building software, knowing who it's connecting, like it actually comes down to precise communication. And in fact, building software has always been about the clarity of our communication, like right, can you express it definitively, right? That is what software development is. And in fact, probably about 10 or 15 years ago, when I was an academic, and I was at a research conference, and I was talking to some of the foremost program language researchers of the day. And I was like, hey, why don't we build, you know how Iron Man had, what was it? It wasn't Claude. What was his name? It was Jude Law's voice. He had a name. Jarvis. Yes, thank you. Jarvis, right? And I was like, let's code like Jarvis. This is before AI, because now it actually is, right? And I talked to someone and I was like, why wouldn't we just create Jarvis? And he's like, but you don't want to. Okay, this is before AI, right? You don't want to because the learning process of understanding your problem comes from being specific about the language, right? So, like the practice of actually thinking through a problem and
Hey
distilling
Maggie.
it into those essential, like seven basic elements of like loops and variables and functions is actually what, like, that specificity is what helps you understand it and build the right thing. So now we have AI, we have something very similar to Jarvis, right? But so now the burden is on us to clearly communicate and be specific. And I think one of the things that AI gets wrong a lot is those connections. So what Kyler was talking about with legacy software, right? Or like things not talking to each other. And so that's really where we still have to provide that scaffolding. There's process things you can do to avoid those kinds of catastrophic failures. But again, but it does come down to communication and like organizational structure. And so I think those connections, I know because when Austin said he's like, oh, I wouldn't learn COBOL, and that's actually like something that I've thought about is I feel like the skills that our team has on our software side of our company really lend themselves to rebuilding legacy. And that's we just finished our first government contract. I can't tell you for which government, um, but we just finished it and they're looking to rebuild something very, very old. And so like the skills of like knowing how to do it from scratch without AI, like we still use AI, but it's like AI isn't going to help you understand this like spaghetti code. Like we spent days figuring out why did they do this in 2007. Anyways, it was like this is what and we tried to use AI to generate diagrams to understand it, and it was just like there's certain things that AI has limits. They will come in time, right? AI will get better, but this idea of precise communication, of owning the stack beyond just full stack, but getting to the level of stakeholders, that is really where the technologists are going, right? Because the power of being able to speak human or stakeholder and text, you can actually translate that into prompts that AI will deliver on, right? And then test it and be able to test it and fix it when it's like 90% of the way there, but there's just something that you need to tweak. Like that's really where the future is, I think, for technologists. Super, super
Uh,
good.
can,
Awesome.
can I just say something really,
Sure,
really quick?
sure.
Um, I was a liberal arts major, okay? I was not a computer science major. And you know what I'm running into? It's you have to be specific with your language, which is what liberal artists do, okay? And I find that I can get some decent results from agentic agents because I am specific with my words. The other thing I want to throw out there is, look, Austin, Tyler, we're dealing with this stuff in real time. We've actually, thanks to Dr. Emily, we were in her vibe coding course, and we actually came up with something that worked. And now we're reaching out to an IP attorney for protection. Um, but the existential question of all of this is where does the AI start and where does our creativity end? And that's something that I'm dealing with on a larger, higher level. It's the idea that, yeah, you guide this thing. You tell Claude or Chat or whoever you're dealing with what to do. But where does your creativity stop and this thing kick in? And maybe that's the existential question. Okay. So I'll just leave it at that. You guys are just so
Yep.
cool. I just can't say how cool you are, but you are cool.
Thanks so much, Kim. I appreciate it. And I think actually, this idea of creativity with AI, I think it's actually a legal question. And it came up recently that in
Mm.
court that if it's using AI, it's like not yours. But I suspect, like to me personally, with my understanding of AI and how it responds to an individual's consciousness and their prompts and their energy, like to me that seems misguided. But the courts will have to bear that out, right? I'm curious though, Kyler and Austin, if you have any other opinions on how things are going. I know Austin had mentioned briefly in the chat, but I'd love to hear your side of
Caleb, you're up first this time.
it.
So I guess where things are going with AI.
No, I
Um,
think it's more like what is that the question? I think the question is more like where does creativity start and end?
Like where I think, well, I mean, it could be a legal one of ownership, but like what's yours versus the AI?
so that
What
is
is it? It's like, where does your creative, unique thing stop? And where does AI jump in? Or
Uh-huh.
vice versa. But it's like, where's the demarcation? Where do you end and where does that thing start?
so
Okay.
this is actually a very old discussion.
Mm.
This discussion has been happening for centuries, if not millennia. The
Woo.
this goes back. This is the same discussion that uh I've read documents about in the 1800s, I think, where artists were talking about what does it mean to create a new painting. If you paint the sun or if you paint the moon or the stars and you use a similar technique to what somebody has done before, like the same flick of the brush, does that mean are you copying? If you're drawing or you're creating leaves in a tree and you're using some sort of scumbling technique to do that and to create that texture, other people have done that. That wasn't your original idea. So is that yours? Is that painting truly yours? Or is
Yeah,
it
but
or is it the person who invented the scumbling?
suppose you made your sunrise a little redder than the next guy, and it didn't look like what the other guy did.
Well, this
Yeah.
is related to music copyright law as well. It's almost impossible to win a music copyright suit because you can
Yeah,
always take every melody, like a three-note sequence,
exactly.
back to Gregorian chants from the Middle Ages, and prove it. So, like, I think this is probably beyond the scope, right? Like the super meta question is might be beyond the scope of our talk tonight, but I think the idea of like where does the ownership end, I think is a really
Yeah,
important one that, society, as a society, we're currently investigating. I personally did not agree with what I heard of the reading. I have not read the brief myself to understand like the nuances of it. But just in terms of what I know in my experience with AI, I thought that was a little bit short sighted, but like it's going to be borne out, right? We're at a point where technology is evolving faster than our society's ability to adapt and build structure around it. And so we may not know the answer to that question as a society for about 20 years. And guess where
oh,
the technology will be since through then? Right? Like it's gonna be totally different.
but
Awesome. Yes, I will
but
post the link again. So thank you so much. And Linda, we can continue this too. I just want to be respectful of
well,
everybody's
but
time.
that was just the question I wanted to
For
throw
sure.
out because it's an existential one and it goes beyond this discussion.
I
It
love
really
that.
does. It's the idea that where does our creativity stop and AI jump in?
I love it. I
Where's the
love it, Linda.
demarcation?
So, so good. And I would love to dive into it more. Maybe we can stick around after if anyone is interested, or I invite you all to participate in the Tech Innovators, which speaking of, I want to get that link to you. There's a link in the chat. I'm giving away a $3,000 spot in our next Tech Innovators cohort. It runs from Sunday through July 15th with Kyler, Austin, and a mystery senior dev who might be from AWS or Google. They're checking. I have some people that I've reached out to, but they're checking with higher ups to ensure they're allowed in their professional capacity to actually participate. So don't worry. I still have a little bit of time to lock them in because Kyler and Austin are here and locked in for that. I love that. So, so good. So, Austin and Kyler, I really want to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much. It's always a blast hanging out. And so, if anyone is interested in hanging out more with Austin and Kyler, please consider joining Tech Innovators. That's the link I just dropped off to you is to enter to win a spot. If you don't win a spot and you'd still like to participate, you can, right? That's pretty cool. We do have payment plans available. But as we wrap up here, Austin, Kyler, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the group? Just, putting a bow on to any final comments for the group.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that this is an exciting time to get into software, as I was talking about earlier, and I think that because the levels of abstraction continue to move, so from whatever like physics in the 1920s to machine code to to assembly to like programming languages that you're familiar with in the past, and now to English text, I think that because we've moved up that levels of abstraction, we've been able to build more and more things and affect more and more change in the world, and so I would embrace that as much as possible and become that person that's changing the world as fast as possible and as much as possible using, using the tools that are available for our generation. And these are the tools. Let's go use them.
I love it. Thank you, Austin. What a great way to sum things up. Kyler, anything you'd like to add?
That was pretty much what I was going to say. It's an exciting time. The tools are advancing so rapidly. AI is helping us accomplish so much more, so much faster. It's so much easier to get our ideas out of our head and into the world. It's exciting. It's really exciting. Things that I used to take me weeks to build and prototype, I can do in an hour now. And it's like just that kind of rapid ideation. and like that investment of time isn't what it used to be. It changes the equation quite a lot. So it's just a really exciting time to get into this and build things. It's a lot of fun.
It's like a builder's paradise. I love it.
It
Super fun.
really is.
Yep, it's a great time to be a builder. So yeah, like the whole job thing might be a little bit like we don't know where we're going right now, but like the ability and capacity, it's just incredible. Like I remember I think it was like a month ago, I like sat down one Sunday. I had an idea for an app, and I sat down and I just prototyped all the screens. And on Sunday, while I'm hanging out with my family, I was just like do 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 do, like, and it was done. And I mean, normally that would have been like, weeks of work or thousands of dollars paying a UI expert to do it. And I just, it done, right? Like I got the domain. I still have to hand it over to my team in their free cycles, not delivering for clients to build it out for me. But like, yeah, like, oh my goodness. It's incredible. So thank you all so much. I'm super excited. So Kyler and Austin, I want to be respectful of your time. If you do have to sign off, I completely appreciate that. If anyone here is interested in learning more about tech innovators, or you want to see who the winner is, now is your last chance. Please complete the form. I'm going to generate a random number and just pick whatever line that is in the spreadsheet, and they'll win a spot in our next Tech Innovators. So stick around. We'll talk more about it just briefly, not very long, but for anyone that's interested. But thank you so much, Austin, Kyler. You're welcome to stay, but please you don't have to. Thank you so much for participating. It's always a blast to hang with you, and we can't wait to see you inside Tech Innovators. Awesome, sweet. And I'm going to bring on one more person. Suzanne, I hope you're okay to be camera ready. Okay, awesome. So Coach Suzanne is
Yep, ready.
actually, she is a longtime coach in the academy, and she's helping out with Tech Innovators. We not only invite our incredible senior dev mentors like Tyler and Austin, but we also support students with like and for like if you need something, if they're have questions, debug questions about the activities, an opportunity to showcase with the community and like show off what you've done and all those good things. And so Suzanne is going to help run those scrum sessions on Wednesday night. So we the Tech Innovators program has coalesced around Sundays and Wednesday nights. It's obviously at the mentor's discretion, right? So it is a little bit different there. But that's where we kind of coalesced around. Okay, so I just saw like someone else submit on the spreadsheet. So I want to make sure everyone has a chance to enter to win the $3,000 prize. So while we wait, I want to give just a couple more minutes. Does anyone have any questions about Tech Innovators or how it's set up? I wasn't really talking much about it tonight in terms of like the structure, but happy to answer any questions that you guys have about that. Yeah. What
Well,
do we got?
I defer to anybody because I think I'm already in it.
You
Uh,
are already in it, Linda.
yeah. So I defer to anybody else who has a question. But, can I just posit something out there with regard to AI and our coding journey? Um, my wish of wishes was always to be able to tell somebody, an agent, or even do it myself, what to do, and it would be done. And I thought that the really cool thing about it was my idea, the idea that I came up with something. And you know about it. I told you about it. I have some skin in the game right now. My team and I are actually trying to seek intellectual property protection over an app that we developed when we were vibe coding. Okay. And all this time I thought that vibe coding was a distraction from the tech interview. Oh no, you're saying no. Oh, okay. But I thought it was. And it turned out to be like a whoa thing. Uh, and so, this is where we are. It's like, okay, we did this thing and it's awesome. And we're out there trying to protect it, either through patent protection, which would protect the algorithm, or copyright. I didn't want to get into it too much with this. Oh, well, what if the sunset looks more red than the other one? No, no, that's copyright. But, we're out there forever what we can get. But, it's just the whole idea of where does my creativity stop and where does the AI step in? And we did this whole thing that we were doing. I hope Mindy's still on. I hope she is, but I guess she's gone. But anyway, she was a team member. We did this whole thing with Claude and Lovable, and it was strictly vibe coding. But I understood, and Mindy and all the team guys understood what was going on, which was good. But it was like they took it off our shoulders, the AI did at a certain point, and they did a lot of the heavy lifting. For example, one of the things that I encountered early on was communicating with the API because I was dealing with live stock feed, and there were some hiccups. And, it's like if I were going to do that by myself, I would have taken maybe a couple of weeks to maybe figure it out. And, this builder app just did it maybe in a day or two. And maybe that's the way people tout AI. Um, but AI would never have come up with the idea of what we're doing if we hadn't done it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but for me, it's really an existential thing, as I said before. It's the idea that you come up with the idea that no AI could ever have come up with because it's your idea. Whatever that idea is, it was yours. You came up with it. And maybe you came up with it out of need because that's basically where good ideas come from.
Yeah.
It comes from need. Okay, so you're coming up with this idea and you're just saying to the AI, I have an idea of what I want you to do. And you say it in specific language. And this is where my liberal arts thing comes in. I'm really used to, like, you guys will talk in numbers or code. And, I'm going to talk in words. All right. And I'm going to be in specific words to
Mhm.
say where it goes and when and how come and where. And it will do it and it'll give me what I want. Also, I'll give it some screenshots too. Okay. That
Yeah.
always helps when you're working with an
Awesome.
AI. Um, and it's just amazing. But it's this thing that's still lurking out there. Yeah, it was a good idea of mine, but this thing really did a lot of the heavy lifting.
Which is so, so wonderful. And I love Linda's talk.
I
It's
don't
so, so good.
know.
I just
I
want to
don't.
touch on this concept for a little bit though, because AI is changing the game. Like Linda had mentioned, like, hey, you have an idea and you can build it. So one of the things I want to caution, and again, I offer this advice to anyone that comes to me. I'm not a patent attorney, right? I'm not a lawyer. So please seek your own legal advice. However, I do want to point out that your best protection as a business in this space is your audience.
Hmm.
So Coca-Cola does not have any patents on their
They had a
product.
trade secret. Yes, they did.
Yes. And now imagine you have an idea that anyone can use AI to build once they see it, not
Mhm.
just you. So, what the best protection that all new business ventures have is actually your audience and your users, your raving fans that will go to bat for you. And so that is my recommendation. And that's actually I didn't talk about this tonight, but I like Linda had mentioned our Vibe Coder course. I actually have a separate course where I combine my technical knowledge of running a software company and scaling a business to seven figures. Like I combine it together in the Vibe Coder course of like how to launch your own SaaS app basically. And it combines business strategy as well as technical, like how do you make these decisions? How do you prioritize what to build next? How to generate revenue? How to get users? Like all the things. And so, like, from that perspective, like, yeah, you can build things fast, but so can your competition. So, like, basically, AI is just like ramped up, like, the whole process of business. And so, what protection does any business have, right? Like, I can take, for example, the idea of Kidzix shoes. Do you guys remember Kidzix? Like, you could slip into them and they had, like, almost like a built in shoehorn in the back. It was like stiff plastic. And so, they had an advantage for a very short period of time. And then Skechers built it. So you always have to consider who might buy me out or who might replace me, right? And so having an audience that you own a pathway of generating consistent revenue into your business before you go out there for the patents, just something to consider, or you might want to build them both simultaneously, because that's what forces bigger companies to pay attention to is how many people are connected to you that will vouch for you and be upset if you go away, right? Disney does not have a monopoly on theme parks, but guess what? They're still like the go-to gold standard, and there's a reason for that. And they have a brand around it, and they have raving fans around it. And so that eventually, ideally, every business that starts, you want to find those raving fans. And so that would be my only caution on patent attorney is that it's when you submit it, yeah, you own it, but it also becomes public. And just like we mentioned, every musical piece goes back to a chant in the Middle Ages. It We're still figuring out how different is different with AI. And they just said if AI creates it, that's not yours. So what's yours is the screenshots, what's yours is the ideas, but the AI isn't. And is there a bigger, badder competitor out there that would just pay a developer a butt ton of money and in 2 weeks be able to remake your app?
Yeah. And
Something to consider. That's
well,
all.
you bring up the thing that I'm facing right now.
Right.
No, I'm facing it right now because the first thing that if you seek patent protection is what we're going for, they will do something called a prior art search, which actually looks at stuff that's already out there that did what you did. Okay. But it brings me back to one of the things that you talked about when you were doing your business version of this cohort. It was the idea of the beta testers. Every time I would beta test, that was a disclosure, and you have like a 1 year period to get your patent application in. That starts from the time that you disclose it publicly. And so for me, it was like I was like choking the whole time you were talking about beta testers, because every time I would put it out to the public, that would be a disclosure. And so what we finally decided on was we're going to go for something called a provisional patent application, which will actually demarcate the time that we file our application is the time that the clock will start. That's
Good.
what we want to do. But it's like every time you reveal it to somebody, it's no longer unique. And the thing that you really want to protect is what the thing works as.
Well, now remember, Linda, there's a difference between, and I don't want to go too far off topic,
No,
but
no, but this
there's a
is something that somebody
right,
like me, a mom and pop, would
but
encounter.
there's a
No, it's
difference
real.
between a patent application and sharing your software. You
All
want
right.
users from day one, right? Like
Yes.
you want to share it. Now, it's true. It's kind of funny actually. I had a competitor boot camp. I've had competitor boot camps pretend to be prospective students, and I always can tell who they are because they start using these like really academic words that I understand, but I'm like,
Like
I
they're
have
gaming
spoken
you?
with
They're gaming
thousands
you?
of people. Yeah, they're like, I want a software engineering job. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Said no actual student I've ever had ever. And then they were like asking me all these questions. Well, I want to get hired. Well, what's your tech stack? And they listed this laundry list of tech that to learn it, they would have had to be like making 150K already. Right. I was just like, uh-huh. And then I was like, hey, why don't you send me your resume and I'll give you some free feedback on it? Crickets.
Oh,
So what I'm saying is like you're right. As soon as you go public, people are out there, but like I patenting is revealing your secret sauce
yeah, it is.
in a way that just sharing the public visible product is not.
Okay.
Right. And so that's all I'm saying is just be intentional about it.
All
And
right.
I saw some questions in the chat, right? Like you there is I mean, there's an art and a science to business just like coding.
Mm-hmm.
But really, you want user feedback. The fastest path to a big SaaS product is finding raving fans and going viral, which means sharing it. But sharing it with users, not necessarily competition. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't patent. I'm not an attorney, but I'm just saying that there are companies that strategically choose not to because
Yeah.
of the amount of like that's why you actually can't buy fake Coke.
Oh, I
Like if you ever
totally get
buy
it.
like the store brands, it's not the
Mhm.
same because they never patented it.
And
Like
they
no
don't
one knows.
taste the same either.
They
They
don't.
do not.
They
No,
don't.
no,
So I'm
no.
just saying, like, be intentional, right? Be considerate when you submit your patent. Are you handing a potential, like, was it if there's a big player out there, would they be able to scoop in and do your thing? That's all. Just like how Skechers did Kidzix, right? But Kidzix,
Yeah.
they had enough market share that they're still surviving as a company because they have raving fans that are like locked into their brand, right? So that's just kind of like building a SaaS is as much about building a business and building a brand and
Mhm.
attracting those raving fans to your mission. It's more like so I guess that's what I would say is the answer here is a SaaS company is never about the SaaS. It's about the mission the SaaS is
Mm.
serving, right? The brand. That's why like Amazon was able to pivot and Barnes and Noble went out, right? Barnes and Noble sold books, so did Amazon. But Amazon's mission was aligned with how do we deliver content faster? So when streaming came out, even though it was super expensive, they went all in because it was aligned with their mission. Their mission was forward looking enough that it could survive that transition in a way that Barnes and Noble couldn't. Anyways,
No,
like now we're getting into like business land, and so I
no,
really want
no,
to
but
focus.
you just said something
Yeah,
that was really, really significant to me as a mom and pop. It's the
sure.
idea that, I should speak the language of my audience,
Yes,
basically.
yes,
And,
that's what we talk
that
about
is
all
what
day.
I will do. But, yeah, that
Yep.
was a cool thing. Okay.
Okay. So who's ready? Who is ready to hear who the winner is
Oh my goodness.
for the next Tech Innovators cohort? Because I just did a random number generator. Um, I can show you guys screenshots if you want, because I know this person, but I literally, it's just random. I didn't know the last person. So if it makes you any better, I followed the same process. So, so I generated the number 5. So we had 26 entries or 25 entries from 2 to 26. I generated the number 5, and the 5th person to submit was Rebecca Stone.
Mhm.
I know. I know Rebecca wanted to be in the last cohort, but couldn't figure it out. So, like, yeah, very excited. So, congratulations, Rebecca. You get to be in the next
Oh,
creators cohort. We're super excited to help you level up.
I can't believe it.
oh
Thank you so
my
much.
You're
goodness.
welcome. You're welcome.
Oh,
Congratulations. Yay. You're so excited to have
oh.
you. Now, if you weren't the winner, okay, I'm sorry. I wish everyone could be you're all winners because you showed up tonight. But like if you want to actually like join us and get to hang out with Austin and Kyler, and you weren't the one lucky winner out of the 25 people that applied, let me quickly share with you. I can share with you a different link. I believe it's working. I don't know. I got some text while we were live, so I hope it's working. Um, but I just wanted to share with you the link in the chat about our Tech Innovators program. It's a 3-month program where you get to study alongside the senior devs, Austin, Kyler, and then the one other one. Let's see, somebody's loud on their typing. I'm just muting. And basically, the way it works is the senior devs come for 3 weeks in a row and they teach on a topic that they think is super important and they give a hands-on activity that I workshop with them as a longtime educator, right, to make sure it's a really good experience. And so we workshop an activity together with them, and that's what everybody gets to do. The activities are graded, not like people don't actually grade them. When I say graded, I mean like they're graduated in difficulty. So like they're designed to appeal to many levels and many time constraints, right? Because everyone here, many people have day jobs, some people are students, right? Like everybody is working. And so the idea is that whether if you have 2 hours a week or 40 hours a week, you're going to be able to go deep on this activity, and you get live feedback from the senior devs on your specific code. Like not only are you getting in the room with the senior dev, they're literally looking at your code and talking to you about ways you can push it to go even further and deeper, right? Like it's an incredible like form of education and training in tech. And what I can tell you from the cohort we had about 6 students in the cohort, I think, who did it in the fall. So super small group, right? Like imagine getting in the room, like so small. You like the senior devs know your name. They can see what you do. And the way I saw these students blossom in terms of their confidence and their abilities, it was just a total game changer. Because imagine watching Austin build a mobile app in like 10 minutes, how he uses AI and agents and how he does it. Like, you're downloading his 20 years of experience in a matter of minutes. It just, all of the students involved like totally leapfrogged forward in this process. And so I'm really excited to share with you and offer this as a second cohort for it. So awesome, Arthur. So good to see you. But so if anyone is interested, I've dropped the link below. We do have payment plans. In terms of what do you need to know before coming into it, right? Because we do actually have, if you're an academy student, you can just text me and I will talk to you about your level. We look for someone to be in mod 2 somewhere, right? If you're not in the academy and you're an outside student, we're looking for you to have some experience with data structures. That's it, right? We just want to make sure that these assignments and activities are on the right level so you will get a meaningful experience out of them. But it's a really fast-paced way to learn. We had a couple college students do it in the past, and they really found that it augmented their learning that they learned in the classroom because now they got to actually apply it and learn from senior devs. This is actually like why I left academia, because I knew the knowledge that my college students needed was locked away inside the minds of these incredible senior devs, and there was no mechanism for me to integrate that in a college setting. So I'm really, really excited to be able to continue bringing this type of learning environment to you because you just can't find it anywhere else. And we handpick the mentors. So like Austin and Kyler are incredible. And I know our third mentor is going to be awesome as well. Awesome. So good to see everybody. So if you're interested, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can also text me. Yes, that's really me texting you. Like, hey, go check your email for this. like, yep, that's me. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We do start Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So if you did want to join, um, I encourage you to join by Sunday. If you need more time than that to figure things out, there's replays available. So the first session will be recorded, but we are going to get started right on next Sunday. So thank you so much to everyone who's joined us. Congratulations again to Rebecca for winning. Love it. Super excited to have you. And yeah, if you have any other questions tonight, I'm here to answer them. I'm happy to stay on a little bit longer. And just let me know. Yeah, awesome. And then Suzanne, thank you for joining us. I just want to introduce you so people know who you are. I'll take you off camera though. You don't have to stay. You don't have to. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. All right, I'm gonna unpin. All right, sweet. So
I
Tim,
have questions,
yep,
but I
Anna
prefer to
has
take it
questions.
offline.
Okay, no worries, Anna. That's good. You can just DM me on Discord. That's fine. That's super cool. Excellent. Timothy, question. What's happening?
Um, I was just wondering if the dates and times are going to be posted anywhere because
Yeah.
on the old calendar that I'm still using, I don't see anything at all.
No
I
worries,
haven't
Timothy.
seen
We have a
anything
new
for the whole
Google
time.
sheet for this next cohort. I have the sheet. I'll share it with you guys. I thought I
Okay.
shared it, but maybe I didn't drop it in the Discord. It'll get there. No worries.
All right. Thank you.
Great questions. All righty. I think I'm going to unpin and just see everybody. Well, not see. All right. Excellent. Any other questions? I hope everybody had an awesome time. I always love hanging out with our senior devs. It's so much fun. Any other questions I can answer tonight?
Well, if our app really actually gets a patent, I will definitely remember you guys.
I know we can't
But
wait.
it's a long road, okay? What can I say? Because they're already trying to dissuade me from doing it. But
Where
if we do it, hey, you're in it.
No, I'm not trying to dissuade you from doing your app. I'm just saying be intentional and strategic about it. That's all.
Oh,
Right?
all right.
Yeah.
so does
Understood.
that mean when you become rich and famous, you're going to hire all of us?
If you're nice to me, perhaps.
The queen must be obeyed, right?
There
Oh,
you
absolutely. That's the thing about being queen.
There you go. There you go. Oh man, it was so incredible talking with everyone tonight. Thank you so much for joining. Great to see everybody. I hope to see some of you inside of Tech Innovators. I know some of you are already there. Anyone who is from the fall cohort, like you do get a discount, right? If you want to stay and learn from these other senior devs. But so good to see everybody. Rebecca, I'll be reaching out, and I can't wait to see some of you inside of Tech Innovators. Again, just text me. I'll send a follow-up email, most likely saying like, "Hey, do you want to join?" But yeah, can't wait to see you guys inside Tech Innovators. All right. Have a great rest of your night and stay tuned because although this wasn't about Vibe Coders tonight, this was about Tech Innovators. That's coming soon. And I know Dan has been asking me about
Bye-bye.
Tech Tuesdays. Tech Tuesdays is coming back. Just stay tuned. First, we have a huge new website redesign that's coming out next week. The team has been hard at work, and then I'm gonna start cooking on some of those offers. All right, so I'll show you guys. All right, don't worry, I'll make sure to email you all the things. All right, have a great night, folks, and we'll talk soon, okay? Peace.
Bye.
Happy coding.